Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Mia. What time is it?
Hi.
What time is it where you are?
I'm in Jerusalem, so it's only 8 o'clock. It's not
Oh, of course. I knew that. Now I'm trying to start. Here I am. I'm going to come visible in a minute. Hello, Rebecca. Hello, Mia. Hello, Tari. Hello, Michal. Jackie. Wow. Dasi. Joy. I see you. Adina. Dina Bruce. Wow. Okay. Leah.
Hello.
Tammy. Hi. Bruchot habaot to my study. And welcome to the Haggadah session. I have to say that, Adina, are you there? Adina, can I unmute you?
Yeah, yeah. Hi.
Adina, and also, how are you? And also, and Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi. You have done this before, the Mos Haggadah with me, am I pretty sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you realize that's what you're in for, you're welcome to stay on for a rerun. We'll wait maybe another minute or two, see who else joins us. First, let's hear from everybody who's tuned in. Hi, Hani. Let's hear just if you can unmute yourselves and say something along the lines of how you're doing, where you're tuning in from. Start with upper left-hand corner for me is Mia.
Hi. I'm still in Jerusalem. My sisters, I'm doing good. Yeah.
Okay, in regards to Nat, to your sister. Connie, over to you.
Currently in Toronto. Got stuck here. Supposed to be in Israel, but doing good.
Okay, great to see you. Rena.
Hey, I'm in Brazil.
Oh my goodness.
I came back for peace. Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
live here, so I'm with my
What
parents.
time of day is it right now for you?
It's 2 p.m.
Okay, that's normal hour. And Joy, it's 6 in the morning?
It's 10. I'm driving to Arizona with my family and my dog on my lap right now.
Oh, nice to meet your dog. Okay.
And
Good to see you. Rebecca?
I'm in Chicago. I just graduated from YU in January, so I didn't really get displaced when the world got sick. And I'm studying for the CPA exam, which is canceled. And I'm, in theory, starting my job at Goldman Sachs in July, but who knows?
Well, it all sounds like a plan, and we all know what has happened to people's plans recently.
Yeah, man plans, God laughs.
Exactly. Or somebody's laughing. I don't know if it's God. I hope God isn't laughing because, you know, it's just, anyway, but that's already, we're getting deeply into theological questions. Michal.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm probably the oldest, I guess, next to you. But I live in Jerusalem. I was at Lindenbaum about probably close to 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago. And I wanted to hear Shira on Pesach, so I'm tuned in.
Okay, Michal, welcome. And we're back to Tari for a moment.
Hi, I'm in Modi'in. I'm studying at Lindenbaum this year. Yeah, here until things go back to normal.
Okay, Tari, we hope indeed. And it'll be easier for you to get back than for others to get back to Yerushalayim. I see somebody's tuning in. It just says Betsy.
Hi, it's actually, I'm probably the oldest one here. Betsy Lapata. You had my kids in Lindenbaum, at least Shoshana.
Yes.
And
yes.
I went to school. I was a classmate of your wife. So between us, we're 50% of the high school class in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I
So
will give
please give her
regards
my
to-
best.
What was your name before Lopata?
Sickerman.
Oh, my goodness, I know the name.
Okay.
And you have a sister who lives in Beit Rimon, or used to live in Beit Rimon. You,
Nope.
maybe.
No, but I'm related to the Fink family, so there are a lot of them floating around Israel.
Okay. Anyway, we'll do Jewish geography another time, but I will tell Judy. And if so, if you were Judy's classmate, you're a couple of years younger than I am. Okay. Okay, Dasi Schneider. I'm not kept picking up. Let's move to Jackie. It's okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'll turn on my video.
How are things with you?
They're good. I'm in my first year at Brandeis, but like no longer. They canceled everything, so I'm home now.
Are they doing online learning?
Yeah, but a lot of
Okay.
teachers like remade their schedules and like, you know, there's not like some classes got canceled. So
Wow. Okay, you know what? I feel that we will not have time for actually have a shiur if we continue, but hello, Leah, Adina, Sylvia, how are you? Great to have students from the not too distant past whose faces and voices are going to be very familiar to me. And Danielle, welcome back, and Elisheva and Tova and Shoshana. Great. All right. I am at home. We're trying to confine ourselves as much as possible, as people in their 60s are considered a kvutzat sikun here in Israel. So the most frustrating piece of this is that we are not communicating. Well, we're communicating, but not hugging and kissing our grandchildren, which is more difficult than it sounds not to do that. And waiting and hoping that this thing will turn around as quickly as possible. For some of the Bogrot who have heard this shiur, I will tell for the others that the reason that I do this every year, and it's a funny choice to do over Zoom, is my box take just one small part of a large number of boxes for you? Or can you make me the main view? I'm the main view?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're the main
All
view.
right. Okay, so if that's the case, we should be able to do this. There are 2 volumes here that comprise a Haggadah, a very large and very unique Haggadah, both done by perhaps the premier Judaica artist in the world today. I say that's arguable, but certainly in my opinion. His name is David Moss. He's an Oleh from California who made Aliyah around the middle 1980s, and worked on a major project for several years that resulted in what is perhaps the most magnificent illuminated Haggadah ever created. And I say it's magnificent not only because the artwork is beautiful, but because every page of the Haggadah that he created was a result of parshanut. It's really exegesis. It's a question of taking that text or that idea that's on that particular page of a standard Haggadah, and through art, giving it greater depth and greater meaning. In order to do this, he spent about 3 or 4 years first researching the rich history of Perushim on the Haggadah, Perushim on Perek Arvei Psachim and Masechet Psachim, and also going around the world at the time in the 1980s. Not everything was available. There was no internet as we know it today, and to be able to access the libraries of the world, the museums of the world that have these rich history of illuminated Haggadot. He went around doing that as well. And the result was a Haggadah that was commissioned by a wealthy couple in Connecticut. That's the original one that's slightly larger than this, which is pretty large on and of itself. It was commissioned for $500,000. He writes a companion volume. This explains the other volume. And in the companion, he has also got a very lovely sense of humor. He writes that generally when you're doing a business deal for something the worth of $500,000, it's a long contract. In this case, it was one paragraph where he wrote to this lovely couple from Connecticut, I will endeavor to create for you a magnificent Haggadah, and you will endeavor not to spill wine on it. Can you unmute yourselves occasionally so that I can hear if I'm getting through or if you find these things humorous? Okay. And occasionally I'm going to turn a page and you're going to go, ooh, ah. And if I can't hear you go, ooh, ah, I miss some of the hana'ah that I get every year by showing this to several groups. So feel free, if you don't have a lot of background noise around you, feel free to unmute yourselves. Hi, Shoshana. Okay, so I want to begin. This first of all, I'll tell you this Haggadah that I have is one of 500 copies. You can no longer purchase any of these. I don't know of anybody who. The last one was sold on eBay for several tens of thousands of dollars, and we bought it at a bargain price of $2,000 for my parents. For my father, Zichrono Livracha, was alive at the time. And for my mother, Shitibadel Chaim Arukim. My sisters and I purchased a pre-publication copy. Having known the artist, we knew that it was going to turn out good, but we didn't know it was quite going to be as amazing as this. And without further ado, I'm going to open up the first page of the Haggadah, and we'll see how this works visually. The first page of the Haggadah. You know what? I'm thinking the lighting will work better if I do it this way.
Why would I do this? Wow.
If I move it closer, you might
When
be
you
able
turn
to-
when you turn the screen, the volume goes down a little bit.
So I'll shout from the side. Does that work better?
Yeah.
When you look at it really closely, I'll try to move the computer even closer. You'll see that there is what looks from afar to be a geometric form on the margins of what is a tree with rimonim. Could anyone tell that what is drawn around the margins is actually calligraphy? Okay, if you could tell that, basically it's the picture of a tree. He found the picture of a tree in one of the Haggadot, in the illuminated Haggadot at the beginning. And he liked the idea because a tree, in the roots of the tree and in the seeds of the tree, you have contained the entire potential of the growth of the tree. And the whole idea of Zeicher L'Tziat Mitzrayim and the idea of preserving the Exodus story as a foundational tale and foundational moment in history is that within the concept of Galut and Geulah, or Avdut and Cherut, that you have in the story of the Haggadah, you actually have the entire future history of Am Yisrael. And if it were just a story about the past, it wouldn't be as central as it is to our Shema and to our Kiddush and towards and in learning and in celebration of not only Pesach but other Chagim as well. Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim is so central because it's not just about the past; it's also about the past event of movement from Galut to Geulah, encompassing all of future Jewish history. So he decided, being David Moss, being the remarkable Jewish artist that he is, he decided to not only recreate that tree in the form of something that resembles the description of the menorah which is also described as an eitz with Pamonim and Rimonim and Anafim, but also to write the entire Magid, the entire narrative portion of the Haggadah in small micrography, micro calligraphy around the text. So you literally have all of it contained in the beginning, which is the idea of the tree, and which is the idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim being a foundational Maseh Avot Siman Lebanim episode. When I turn the page, this is a page of the Haggadah that you're about to see, which is not to be found. I am becoming very farsighted, and I see much better without my glasses at this close distance. The next page, or the two-page spread, you will not find in a regular Haggadah, and I'm going to see if anybody can identify the text. I'll give you a quick look at it.
It's probably, what's it called?
It's the
Michal?
piece that ends.
Rebecca?
Isn't it Akina from Tisha B'Av?
Exactly. Is that what you were going to say, Michal?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is indeed, and I'll read the text for you. It starts with the stanza of the Kina, of the lamentation that we say on the night of Tisha B'Av, Eish tukad b'kirbi v'haloti al libi b'tseiti mimitzrayim. And then all the terrible things that happened b'tseiti miYerushalayim. And the Kina goes back and forth between b'tseiti mimitzrayim, when all these wonderful things happened, and b'tseiti miYerushalayim, where all of these terrible things happened. Why have Tisha B'Av connected with Leila Seder? And if you look again, I'm going to show you again up close, next to the stanzas. First of all, underneath each stanza, for instance, that we just read, you'll see micrography, tiny micrography, that you can make it out. And if you can't make out that small line, it's because A, we're on Zoom and you're not looking at it directly, but it's also because it's not only micrography, but it's mirror micrography. It's written with a magnifying glass and with a mirror. And why write with a mirror? Why write the dvarim noraim karuli b'tseiti miYerushalayim? Why write that with a mirror micrography and also small? Well, the idea is that you're dealing with mirror images. B'tseiti miMitzrayim and b'tseiti miYerushalayim are a mirror image, it's the opposite of one another. But because it's Leila Seder and not Leil Tisha B'Av, we emphasize large letters, large calligraphy, b'tseiti miMitzrayim, and put in reverse mirror image, small, tiny letters, the b'tseiti miYerushalayim. Then underneath each stanza with the mirror micrography, you'll see there are charts with letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, and other things. Can you see those charts? Okay, so now I'm going to explain what the deeper meaning behind these two pages, which is quite extraordinary. How many of you are familiar and have heard the term atbash? Chani is nodding her head. Michal, what is atbash? Go ahead, share with everybody.
Aleph equals taf, bet equals shin. Nachon, that it's flipped.
Nachon. I'm going to spell it out here on the replacement for a whiteboard that I have. Dalet is Kuf, Hey is Tzadi, Vav is Pei, Zayin is Ayin. If you want, it's a very simple and easily deciphered code. And if you want to write something, you want to write a word in a way that isn't easily deciphered, but can be if you understand the Atbash code, Aleph equals Taf, Bet equals Shin, going backwards from the end of the alphabet and forwards from the beginning of the alphabet, and those equivalencies. In fact, the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson, writes his Perush on Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh in Atbash, because it contains, for apparently, for him at least, it contains some esoteric meaning, so he writes it in an esoteric medium. But why use the Atbash, and what does the Atbash have to do with Leila Seder and with Tisha B'Av? So here, I'm going to explain which is a pretty amazing thing. It was discovered many centuries ago that if you know what day of the week the Seder night falls, right? If you know Aleph of the 7 days of Pesach, then you know the entire calendar, Jewish calendar for that year. And because it works like this, following the chart, the first night of Pesach, can you still hear me even though I'm on a slant? The first night of Pesach always falls on the same night of the week as Tisha B'Av. That also explains why Moss did this connection between a Kinah of Leil Tisha B'Av that talks about B'Tzeiti Mitzrayim and B'Tzeiti Yerushalayim. It might also have inspired the person who wrote that Kinah to connect those two mirror images of Galut and Geulah. But then it goes on. The second night of Pesach, Bet, always falls on the same night of the week as Shin, the first night of Shavuot. It'll always be on the same night of the week. Gimel Pesach will always fall on the same night of the week as Resh, Rosh Hashanah. The fourth night of Pesach will always fall on the same night of the week as Kriyat Torah, or what we call Simchat Torah. The fifth night will always fall on the same night of the week as Tzom Kippur. The sixth night of Pesach will always fall on the same night of the week as Purim, Yud Daled. And the seventh night of Pesach never had a mate. Its mate would be the letter Ayin in the Atbash. And it just so happens that the seventh night of Pesach always falls on the same night of the week in that calendar year as Yom HaAtzmaut, as the Ayin of Atzmaut. So if you were wondering until now, Yom HaAtzmaut mina Torah minayin, here you go, in the Atbash. But David Moss has created this idea, and in these charts here that span the 2 pages, you have the entire Jewish calendar for 500 years, starting with Tafshin Mem Zayin, the year of the creation of the Haggadah. And if you need this companion volume over here, in order to figure out exactly, to explain exactly the coding of the small dots and the letters in these charts. But basically each line gives you a year of Jewish calendar using the Atbash. But the idea of the mirror image and doing Atbash has one more mystical, I think it's already mystical because here we're stretching into genius. For David Moss, he is well aware that there is no set nusach formulation for how you perform the mitzvah of the Haggadah Levincha, the mitzvah of Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim on Leil HaSeder. There, it tells you use Arami Oved Avi, the Parshat Bikurim. It tells you have to ask questions and answers. And it also tells you one other criterion. It says, Matchil be, anybody? Bignut, you begin with disparagement. Umisayem, b'shvach or b'shevach. You have to begin with our lowly state and end with our high state, our elevated, sublime state. So matchil umisayem reminds you of the Atbash, because matchil, aleph, matchil, and misayem, betaf, aleph and taf, gimel and shin, etc. So matchil umisayem, and the Genai, our biggest Genai is Churban Habayit, is the destruction of the temple. It's Tim Yerushalayim. And the greatest Geulah and exaltation is B'Shuvili Yerushalayim. It's Tim Mitzrayim, and at the end of the Kinah, B'Shuvili Yerushalayim. You're beginning to get an idea that this is a very complex and artistically thought out Haggadah. So we're going to continue. I always tell people that I manage usually in the space of about an hour to do most of the pages of the Haggadah. Although to do justice to it and to allow some of the beautiful writing in his commentary volume, it really requires many, many more hours. I have heard David Moss himself present the Haggadah, and usually in a space of an hour and a half, he does 2 or 3 pages. But I'm going to give you an overview. I'm turning the page. This is my favorite 4 pages of the Haggadah. Can you all unmute for a minute? Here's where I need an ooh-ah coming up. You probably can't tell, but this is there's a blue background, and there are micrography psukim that move along margins.
We can't really hear you.
There are micrography psukim that surround both pages. And in the middle, there is a paper cut that looks very different from both sides.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Can you tell what the people are doing here?
Are they making matzah?
You know, it's very close to making matzah. In fact, that's what they're doing on the other side. The silhouettes are doing on the other side of the page.
Wait, are they mirrors?
But on this side of the page, they're baking bricks.
Yeah.
They're making levanim, which is, of course, the description of avdut in the first 2 chapters of Shmot, right? Where they don't have enough teven, they're not given enough straw to make bricks. The psukim that surround both sides of the page again in micrography are all psukim that contain the root ayin bet daled, and all in the context of eved or avdut, of slaves or servants. When you turn the page, the psukim that surround both sides of, when you turn it and you read the psukim in micrography that form a beautiful geometric frame for the page, They contain psukim in which the root ayin bet dalid appear again, but in the sense of being ovdei Hashem. The context of each pasuk is to be an eved or an oved rather than an eved, to be an oved Hashem. And when you look at the pictures themselves, I'll close up for it you on the paper cut on this end of it. They are indeed free men. They're clothed as opposed to the half-naked slaves in the previous page. Here they are making matzah. Anybody guess what midrash he's alluding to when he has something that you can read from two ends, from one side and from the back side of it, you can read it. There's a midrash that's fairly, yes, Rebecca.
It's the midrash that the luchot were legible from both sides.
Exactly, exactly. There's a famous midrash that says that the luchot were legible from both sides in a miraculous way, because it's impossible, according to the laws of physics, for that to happen. And then there's an additional midrash that once we've been referred to what's engraved upon the luchot, engraved all the way through, then you may be familiar with another midrash, which says, Charut al haluchot, engraved upon the luchot. Al tikrei, don't read the word charut, which means engraved, ela chirut, which means freedom. Ki ein lecha ben chorin ela misha osek batorah. Because to be truly free, you have to engage Torah. You have to recognize that there's a mitzvah, there's a commandment, that there's a possibility of serving someone other than yourself, other than your own needs and wants. There's a transcendental being, and to be in service of God is the ultimate freedom. Now, you know, we're very familiar with Shalach et Ami, let my people go, right? And that's the most famous saying that the entire world celebrates when we think of Pesach. But the end of the pasuk is Shalach et Ami v'yavduni, and let them serve me, which is ironic, right? Let them be freed as slaves so that they could serve me. Okay, but in a deep sense, that's what true freedom is all about, according to Chazal. And Moss has figured out a way to express it using not only the content, Jewish content, but Jewish media, the medium of seeing something through both ends, of it being, again, mirror images, charut and of dut and cherut. These are my favorite 2 pages of the Haggadah. The next page is, you will find in most Haggadot, you'll always find a page at the beginning of the Haggadah that describes the mitzvah of bedikat chametz and biur chametz, of checking for it and destroying chametz. But Moss's page, as you can well imagine, is a little more beautiful and a little bit more intricate and a lot more meaningful than the usual page. This is what it looks like. So now, can you hear me? No? Only now? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't really show it to you and speak at the same time. But the 2 pages here begin with the upper right-hand corner of the first of 2 pages about Bedikat Chametz, with the Mishnah at the beginning of Masechet Psachim, or Yudalid Bodkim et HaChametz L'or Haner. I'll show it to you again, and you may notice when I show it to you that the illumination of that Mishnah has little birds and also has a little mouse inside the that square. Let me show it to you again. The birds are because one of the ways you can perform the mitzvah of biur chametz is by scattering crumbs out for birds to consume.
Okay.
The little mouse, anybody learn the first Mishnah and the first Gemara in Masechet Pesachim? It's all about chazakot. It's all about halachic presumptions and status, the concept in halacha of status quo. And it begins with, all is about a mouse. And I'm going to sound a little bit like Dr. Seuss, but you know I love, right? But it's about the mouse in the house. And it's about the mouse in the house who, once you've cleaned a room and it has a chazakah status of being cleaned for Pesach, what if you have a mouse in the house? Okay, and as many houses did, and still do. And then how can you be sure that a mouse didn't take chametz from an uncleaned room, an unchecked room, into a cleaned room? And so the Gemara goes on for about 4 or 5 dapim with this mouse, following this mouse, and talking about highly conceptual categories about chazakot. In the end, by the way, they say a status quo of being baduk for chametz has to remain even if you have a mouse in your house, because imlo ein ladavar sof. There'll be no end to your cleaning. You'll be in a vicious cycle of cleaning all the time and never be clean. I'll come back to that first page. The second page, first I'm going to go to the second page of Bedikat Chametz. The larger text is the bracha and the bitul chametz kol chamira v'chamia deika birshutei, etc. But the smaller text in smaller calligraphy is the Perush on Bedikat Chametz of Reb Moshe Alsheich, who was one of the Kabbalists in the 16th century in Sfat, the group that included Reb Yosef Karo and the Ari and others. And the Alsheich saw and then it became very common in Hasidic literature to understand Bedikat Chametz not just as cleaning out crumbs from the corners and crevices of your house, but also by cleaning out the chametz in your soul, in your heart. And by chametz being cleansed or purified or purged from you, what do you think? Give me a conjecture on what you would understand to be the symbolism of something that is tofeach, that gets inflated and grows and ferments inside of you, something that gets inflated. So it could be any part of your neshama that's non-essential, that's tafel as opposed to ikar, but particularly it's ego, right? People have inflated egos. People get the sense that unimportant things assume much more importance, and they themselves have inflated sense of their own importance. And when you do a soul search, you do something like a psychoanalytic introspection, self-introspection, that's what Bedikat Chametz and Biur Chametz and burning the Chametz of your soul is all about for the Alsheich. And so that's the text that Moss chose to bring alongside the text of the ritual of making bracha, and then the pronouncement of bitul chametz kol chamira v'chamia. On the first page, that gets reflected in several 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 circles that each contain a view of chametz. It starts with several stalks of wheat, and then a grain of wheat, and then a cross-section of a grain of wheat, and then that grain of cross-section of a grain of wheat under certain magnification, and then to larger magnification. At one point, the magnification even looks like slices of bread. That's actually what it looked like under microscope. The last of them, well, first of all, let me show you some of these. The last one is he went to the trouble of locating what is it that causes chimutz. That's the essence of the fermentation process, and it is apparently an enzyme called beta amylase. And he went so far as to communicate with scientists and to locate a picture of what beta amylase looks like. And it looks like this last, that's where he took the last drawing, the last circle. It was from a Japanese medical journal where you had a picture of the enzyme. So he's going deeper and deeper, magnifying with a magnifying glass, going deeper and deeper into this, the concept of chametz as Al-Sheikh would have him do. The little text that you have alongside the circles is the text of Chametz U'Matzah, Perek Gimel of Chametz U'Matzah of the Rambam. In the Mishnah Torah, there are that Perek deals with Bidikat Chametz and Bitul Chametz. And every time that the word Chametz appears, he highlights it in red, very small print. I don't know if you can see it. And it turns out that there are only 10 times that the word chametz appears in Perek Gimel, and that's parallel to what minhag? 10 pieces of chametz. Right, in order for it not to be a bracha levatala, we often hide 10 pieces. A minhag is to hide 10 pieces of chametz. Hope we remember where we put them, so that you actually find something. So he highlighted the 10 words that say chametz. In the middle of the page, in the tefer, in the stitching between the two pages, you'll see, I'm going to show you in a moment, there's a mem atzadi on one side and a mem and atzadi sofit on the other side. The first is the word matzah. The second is the end of the word chametz. And between matz and matz, you have a resh. And the resh gets completed by the stitching of the page, either to be the hay of the resh becomes a hay for matzah, or the resh becomes part of the chet for chametz going forward. I'll show it to you. And again, the idea is that between matzah and chametz, there's only a tiny bit of a line that distinguishes a hay from a chet. A mitzvah can become an avera, or an avera can be a mitzvah. It's the tiny nuances that make all the difference. When he gets to the next page, there's usually a kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz page in the Haggadah that we call it Leila Seder because it adheres to this very strict series that's a little bit different for the Rambam and Sfaradim than it is for Ashkenazim. For instance, the Sfaradim don't have yachatz. They don't break a matzah at the beginning of the Seder. They do it only when you make motzi. But in this, and by the way, this is one of the great Corona things that was being passed around. Have you seen that one? That says that we have a different Kadesh Urchatz this year? Because it goes like this: Kadesh Urchatz, Karpas Urchatz, Yachatz Urchatz, Magid Urchatz, because we're all washing our hands all the time. But Corona notwithstanding, what Moss does is he's got not only words for each piece of the Haggadah, but symbols, pictorial symbols. The Haggadah. And then he puts the symbol for each thing on the page when you finally reach it as well. And the little symbol for Afikoman, he puts it on the page of Afikoman, but he also hid about 10 of the symbols of Afikoman throughout the Haggadah, so that all the little kids who are playing with this Haggadah, I say ha 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 because we don't actually let our grandchildren or children play with this. But they can look for it as you would look for Where's Waldo or something like that. Moving on. This is the page for Kiddush. Now, in these different emblems of various empires who all persecuted Jews, you'll see that in each one of them, there's a rabbit caught in the claws of an eagle. Why is there in Ashkenazic Haggadot, Moss noticed when he researched the illuminated Haggadot that in many of the German and Dutch ones, there's a opposite Kiddush, a picture of a rabbit hunt. Anybody know this custom? Anybody come from Yeki background?
Yes, custom.
Yeah, so the way it goes is this. How many of you have learned the 10th parak of Psachim that deals with Leila Seder? You didn't get a chance to learn it in the Midrashah before Corona hit. Okay, but it is a favorite of mine. We used to learn it in the Midrashah every year, and at least towards Pesach. And it's highly recommended. It's easier than a lot of other prakim. It's fascinating. I highly recommend if you're looking for something to do in Zoom Chavruta, or even on your own with a Steinsaltz or with a regular Gemara, if you're up to it. The 10th parak of Masechet Pesachim is all about Leila Seder. And one of the first sugyot is, what do you do if Kiddush falls on, if the Kiddush of Leila Seder, it falls on a Saturday night, on a Motzei Shabbat? Then Kiddush suddenly becomes very complicated because you have to figure out how to introduce into Kiddush not only Mekadesh Yisrael Azmanim, Borei Pri Hagefen, and Shechianu, but also Borei Meorei Ha'esh and Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeKodesh. And what are the rules of what bracha comes first, what comes second, what comes third? And they came up with an acronym after entertaining a lot of different possibilities. They came up with the acronym Yak Nahaz. Yak Nahaz, Yain, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah, Zman. Zman is Shechianu. Havdalah is Borei Moreha, is Eish, is Havdalah, is Eish, is Borei Moreha, Eish. Havdalah is Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeKodesh. And Yain, so it's Yak Nahaz, that's how you remember it. Apparently in German or in Dutch, Yak Nahaz sounds very similar to Yag Den Haz, which means hunt the rabbit. So in order to remember Yak Nahaz, the German illuminated Haggadot have rabbit hunts. So he couldn't not include that in his recapitulation and gathering of the exiles into this Haggadah, which he did in the years of his own Aliyah. But so he had to add something to it because he's always adding greater depths. And he looked into the flora and fauna aspects of eagles, of rabbits, and found that the main predator of the rabbit is the eagle. And then he found that the eagle was on the emblem or shield of many empires that persecuted Jews. Nazi empire, the Nazis, the Romans, the Greeks, the Austro-Hungarians. And so each one of these emblems with rabbits caught in their claws, but eventually always in the last circle escaping. In each one, there's a rabbit. I'm going to skip a few pages because I think we might get cut off at 9 o'clock. Is there another shiur at 9 o'clock? Okay, and I'm the one who asked all the other teachers to begin and end on time, so I have to follow my own advice. There's more paper cuts here for halach ma'anya and for manishtana. There's a mishnah about manishtana that's reflected in the paper cut. I don't know if you can make it out, but there's silhouettes. The first silhouette for the first of the 4 questions has a man and a boy. And the second one has a man and a woman. The third question has a man by himself. And the fourth has 2 men. And the reason is because the Mishnah says, Kan haben shoel, v'im ein lo ben ishto shoalto, v'im ein lo isha shoel et atzmo, and ve'afilu shnei talmidei chachamim shoalim ze et ze. So in the silhouettes, it follows the order of the Mishnah. For Avadim Hayino, the most famous illuminated Haggadah from Ashkenaz in the Middle Ages was the bird's head Haggadah, because Ashkenazim didn't feel that you could paint a full image of a human image, even in 2 dimensions. So here he's got them wearing with birds' heads, and because it's Ashkenaz, they're wearing the dunce caps that Jews were forced to wear. But then these birds get caged in a beautiful paper cut cage. And if you looked carefully at the cage, you would see that in the doorway to the cage, there's something that's very reminiscent of what's above the gates of Auschwitz. It doesn't say in German letters, Arbeit macht frei. Avodah or Avdut is Cherut, Arbeit macht frei, which is the greatest perversion of Avdut and Cherut. But it alludes to it. I'm just going to flip through a few more pages and get to one, which will be our last one to look at. The Arba Banim, Renaissance playing cards. B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam lirot et atzmo. Different generations of Jews in different garb, and every other circle is a mirror, so that b'chol dor v'dor ro'eh et atzmo. You see yourselves, and when you open the page, they see each other. I have to tell you this because it's quite something. On 2 sides of the page for B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, there are 600, connected 600,000 little figures. And if you look at the page very carefully, you'll see there's the 5 lines that are musical scores. And each staff in the hand of the different height of little figures leaving Mitzrayim, it actually creates the musical, on 2 sides of the page, the musical notes for one of the compositions of the Moditzer Rebbe that he would compose every year for his Hasidim to sing at the Seder for B'tzeit Yisrael Mitzrayim. There's so much more. I promise that those of you who will be following through, God willing, in a regular semester course, at least those of you in my Parshanut and Machshevet Halacha class, I'll take you through whatever pages we didn't get to tonight. In the meantime, I want to spend the last 30 seconds wishing all of you Chag Sameach V'Kasher. Thank you for joining, and I'll be thinking of you. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Klitsner.
Thanks for
Thank you very much. Chag
Chag
Sameach.
Sameach, Mikasher.
Chag
Michal, nice to meet you. Betsy, nice to meet you. Talia, bye. Sylvia, bye. Bye, Jackie. Bye, Joy.
Thank you, Rav Klitsner. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Rev Klitsner.
Hi.
Sorry to tune in late.
No, it's so great to see you, Talia.
You too. Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Okay, let's be in touch.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.